What do you think? Are you as excited as I am about this?
I don't know. You seem extremely excited. I'm quite excited.
Hi everyone! Welcome to the Metacast Roundtable by Naavik. And today I'm joined by Aaron Bush, a co-founder of Naavik. You've heard him in the past episode. And Thomas Baker. Thomas is a new joiner to the roundtable. So could you do a very quick intro?
Yeah, sure. I'm Tom Baker. I've been in the games industry for about 15 years. Most noteworthily, I was at EA for about 10, where I worked on IP like Mass Effect and Need for Speed and The Sims. And I was also a lead designer on the Real Racing franchise for about 7 years. And I've been senior consultant with Naavik for a couple of years now.
Impressive CV.
Thank you. Awesome. I don't know what to say.
No, it's fine. We can move on. So I have this idea. I do this with people I meet in real life. So if you think it's weird, I'm just weird in real life. And I just ask a very random question to try to get to know people. So nice. I thought about a question when I was walking to the office this morning. Do you ever have a situation where you're walking on the street and then a stranger ends up walking side by side with you because you're walking at the same pace in the same direction?
Yes.
Okay. What do you do in that situation? Do you walk with a stranger like Journey? You just go together? Do you walk faster or do you just walk slow to avoid the awkward?
I would not walk at the same pace. I would kind of make a calculated judgment on whether over time, extrapolating based on our current travel speeds and our apparent destinations, whether it was going to get to the point where it was really awkward or whether it was going to be briefly awkward. If it was going to be really awkward, I would either accelerate if I'm already moving faster or slow down more if I'm moving currently slower. So that's a massively nerdy game design response.
Wow.
You probably learnt more than you wanted to. But
that was great. This is why I love these random questions. Yeah, I got to know a lot.
That was an awesome question.
I just walk side by side with people. I feel like I am in the game Journey. We just are together for that small period of time, and then we each go our separate ways after enjoying some time together.
Okay.
Yeah. How about?
Yeah, I don't want to impose, so that's why I avoid the possibility. Anyway.
How about you, Aaron?
I like your answer.
How about
I like Aaron. So it's currently 1 p.m. for me. For Thomas, it's 11 p.m. For Aaron, it's 7 a.m. And I'm asking this question to you, Aaron, with your donut hat at 7 a.m.
Most of the time, I'd probably be the person to go faster. If it were right now, though, I think I'd go slower. I don't have the energy to find extra speed right now.
Yep, makes sense. All right, so we have some pretty big news. I know it's already been announced on the newsletter by Naavik, now rebranded as Naavik Digest. And we're going to be talking about the first free-to-play premium content as our first topic today, which is the deconstruction of Garena's Free Fire game. And followed on to that, we're going to briefly discuss the mobile game earnings were down during Q1 2022, just trying to figure out what could be going on. And I thought it was a really cute topic. Bloodborne Kart is a fan-made game about Bloodborne. It's just so interesting. I've never heard about this, so I think it'll be a good discussion. Just before we move on to the topics, I just want to do a shout out because it was Pocket Gamer Mobile Games Awards 2022 Tuesday evening, and so they announced some winners. So huge congratulations to Cookie Run Kingdom that won Pocket Gamer People's Choice Award, and that's developed by Dev Sisters, and BeatStar that won Game of the Year and it's developed by Space Ape, who also won the Best Developers Award. So congratulations. Yes, I'm coughing. I actually played both of these games, so very happy that they won these awards.
Awesome.
Have you tried them?
I have not, I'm ashamed to say, but I certainly will.
Okay, well, Cookie Run Kingdom is adorable, so I recommend everyone to try it out.
Okay.
Yeah, so Aaron, just before you dive into the deconstruction, what's going on with Naavik? What's this new premium track of content?
Yeah, it's a better transition than you might think from what you just said too. So, but I'll explain why in a second. So Naavik Pro, it used to just cover blockchain games. We had ongoing game deconstructions, we had weekly market updates, we had weekly essays that dug into various trends, companies, games, you name it, going on in the industry. And we just launched our second vertical, free-to-play mobile, which we're super excited about. And Thomas is one of the pros that's helping us, bring this to life and help make the Free Fire deconstruction possible, along with Eva, who unfortunately couldn't join us today, but she had a huge role to play in that as well. And in this free-to-play mobile vertical, subscribers will also get ongoing game deconstructions, weekly market updates, and ongoing research essays that cover a wide variety of topics across the mobile games industry. And it's a better transition than you thought, because our next deconstruction is of Cookie Run Kingdom, digging into why this game that you wouldn't suspect is doing as well as it is doing. And so I actually downloaded it 2 days ago and started playing it yesterday. It's a super deep and pleasant game that I'm excited to dig into and share more about with all of our subscribers, the world of cookies. But the kind of the best part about this subscription is that this new vertical edition, it's within the same subscription that existed before. So for the same $1,000 a month or $10,000 a year, if you want to pay annually for a discount, subscribers will get 4 monthly game deconstructions, 2 weekly research essays, and 2 weekly market updates. So we'll be adding even more over the months to come. Really, our goal is just to build the #1 platform for games industry insights and research, period, all within one subscription. So if that sounds interesting to you, or you want to learn more, definitely go check it out at naavik.co/pro. And if, by chance you want to inquire about getting multiple seats for your team, or just learn what your options are there, you can reach out to me at aaron@naavik.co. So yeah, I'm super excited to be ramping all of this up over the next month and making Naavik Pro, 2 times bigger and better than it was a month ago.
First, so excited. It's Cookie Run Kingdom. My mind is blown. Okay. I'm so happy we're sharing this world of fuzziness and cookies with all of our audience. Right. I didn't realize. Yeah, it's all within a subscription. That's really cool. I like that pricing.
Yeah. So hopefully, we're trying to make it as valuable as possible. I'm excited by it. And I'm glad you are too, Maria. I hope other people are as well. We work hard.
Yeah, I think it makes sense with how much the world is converging, and the line between free to play and Web3 is starting to get a little fuzzy over time, even within companies that currently develop free to play. So I think having access to the 2 verticals is extra important in these times we're in. Okay, well, we will then jump into the deconstruction. In case you have not played Garena Free Fire, Thomas will do a very quick overview of how the game plays. It's a battle, how do you call it? A battle royale.
Battle royale.
So I don't think there's anything kind of new that they do, but maybe they do. Thomas, tell us, what is this Free Fire?
Well, I could explain what Battle Royale is. I'm pretty sure everyone would know it by now. Drop into massive map, blah, 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 survive, win the chicken dinner, etc. So the things that Garena Free Fire does that are different like the essence of battle royale has basically been the same since Fortnite popularized it. Or PUBG actually popularized it back in 2016. But there are some subtle but really quite important differences between the way that Free Fire does it and other games do that have allowed them to really capture a larger audience. One of the critical things is that the player count is half the regular 100, so there's just 50 people dropping in, which has all sorts of benefits. As a mobile title, the map doesn't need to be so big, which means it has a smaller memory footprint and it takes up less space on disk and doesn't take as long to download in the first place. It also means that the matches are shorter. So yeah, that it's kind of more compatible with that, playing on the go style that tends to be prevalent on mobile. And then they've done a bunch of other things like loot is very plentiful, so there's basically no chance that you won't have a decent weapon when you encounter another player. The gunplay is really kind of mobile friendly. They've got some heavy auto aim. The weapons are very low on recoil. There's not much bullet drop, so yeah, encounters tend to be players tend to be fairly evenly matched when they encounter one another. It's not as like technical, or it's not as kind of heavily dexterity based as some other shooters on the platform. Yeah, I mean, I could go on. There's more in the decon. They've kind of taken the Fortnite building mechanic and distilled it down into just simply placing walls, glue walls, so that like serves a primary function of being able to control the flow of battle and get a defensive kind of barrier up between you and some opponents very rapidly, but without all the input complexity of something like Fortnite, where you have to like harvest resources and then switch modes and all that stuff. So yeah, they've made some really smart technical and game design choices that have enabled them to scale to that insane 1 billion downloads mark that they've managed to hit.
That's interesting. Garena Free Fire is mobile only at the moment, correct?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Do you think the design choices, we see that because it was designed as mobile first, whilst the majority of the other battle royales on mobile were originally designed for console and then ported?
Yeah, I think that's highly likely. Yeah. It has a very mobile first kind of vibe to it, and they've deviated from the template in ways that pretty much no one else has, and I think that you can see the benefits of that playing out over those 1 billion downloads and its dominance of the subgenre.
Yeah, I think it's definitely friendlier to my dexterity skills. I get crushed in other battle royales.
Yeah, I mean, shooters on mobile are kind of a weird proposition. They're not simple games to play on any device, but on a touchscreen, like really quite challenging. So they've made some very smart concessions to that, to make it friendly, like you said.
Before we dive more into the game itself, I was wondering, Aaron, could you explain to us who Garena is and what other games they have developed, if any?
Sure. So, the background here is pretty interesting. So Garena, so the parent company is C Limited, but Garena is really the subsidiary company that's focused on games, and it was the first element of what C Limited became, which C Limited has a market cap of like 60 billion. It was over 100 billion earlier this year. And so it's actually like a pretty insane company that's working on a bunch of things, which I'll talk about in a second. But Garena specifically, which was the first part, it really started as like a publishing platform for console or PC specifically in Southeast Asia. And so they really began with a partnership with Tencent to publish some of their games, most notably like some Riot games like League of Legends in Southeast Asia. And that's how they built up the first parts of their platform and the other, just social components on that platform, as well as seeded an audience. And where it was able to build a business and make money, and then build a team to enable them to no longer just be a platform to publish other people's games in the region, but to start developing and publishing their own. And Free Fire was really like the team's first and only like step into developing and publishing their own game, which is a pretty great first game to to make and have succeed as much as it has. And so Garena, then kind of shifted its focus to doing much of its own development and live ops around the world. And part of what has made Free Fire so interesting, and we can dig into this more potentially, is how it's been able to succeed in the regions that it has. And so, for example, Southeast Asia is obviously a key region for Free Fire, but it's also done well in Latin America. It did well in India until, the recent ban really clamped down on the base game there. And it's doing, surprisingly well on Android in the US too, where it makes quite a bit of money. But really the pattern among all of that is that it's been able to succeed on lower end Android devices and regions that were underserved by the other battle royale games. So obviously, underserved and compared to more of the PC oriented games, and Free Fire came out in late 2017, I believe, which is the same time that battle royale in general was starting to take off, and you started to see the explosion of PUBG, the explosion of Fortnite. Free Fire was in that explosion as well. It just targeted other parts of the world, and so most of us, in our more English speaking countries, didn't see Free Fire be part of it. We saw the other games, but Free Fire was very much there. And the last part I'll mention about why this is so interesting is obviously when a game blows up the way it does and ends up getting 1 billion downloads, it generates pretty meaningful business along the way. But why C Limited what's so interesting to me is that it's not just taking its profits and just sitting on them. It's reinvesting pretty much 100% of its profits into other business avenues, primarily Shopee, which is the leading e-commerce player in Southeast Asia, which didn't start that way, but has since risen to pretty I don't know, I wouldn't say dominant market share, but growing and majority market share of e-commerce in Southeast Asia. Which is an even bigger opportunity than video games potentially, and that is what has driven the business to be worth 60 billion plus. The gaming is awesome; it's provided that profitable foundation, but leadership has been able to reinvest to make this rising conglomerate really more of a juggernaut to take over more rising. Just important elements of what, the internet enables, primarily in Southeast Asia. So e-commerce, and they also do some stuff with C-Money, which is their more fintech division. Still small, but growing really fast. And so, yeah, it's a fascinating company and fascinating to really dig into and understand not just Free Fire's role in Garena, but Garena's role in the entire C Limited ecosystem.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And just to give an example of how well the game performs, I was on a long haul flight and there was someone using the airplane Wi-Fi, which is terrible, and they played this game throughout the flight. That's how good it is in maintaining that multiplayer performance. So before I joined the gaming industry, I was working in selling food products, and you had these products that had payment terms that were very much into the future. And so the way that a lot of the companies are organized in that industry is that you have a part of the company that has products that you can just put into a supermarket and you get immediate payment, and then that acts as a cash flow for the rest of the business. So it seems that this is a similar case where Garena is providing that more immediate cash flow into the rest of the company. Do you think this we'll see more of this in the future in games, where big companies that are in other industries buy a games company to have that cash flow effect?
I don't think it would be as simple as that. I think that a company would have to still be very focused on making sure that if it's acquiring a games business, that it can win at gaming. But I do think that we will see more internet companies and just tech companies that have their own ecosystems look to gaming. One, because if you build a successful gaming business, you build a large audience, and then you can use that audience. It's not just the cash flow that you can use, but you could also point the audience to other things potentially across your ecosystem. And you see it with companies like more in like traditional gaming as we know it, like Xbox, right? Like they serve a bunch of gamers, but then they're able to like build a larger ecosystem around things like xCloud, which is built on Azure, etc. And so I think just more that mindset of like ecosystems in which gaming is a part, that will be a good mindset. But I doubt, these internet companies, conglomerates will just look to buy gaming companies just because they're profitable and want to use the profits. So there'll be a deeper strategic layer there.
Interesting. So, sorry, Thomas.
I was just going to say, even if they do acquire them, we've seen Google, Amazon, Netflix all attempt this and flounder to varying degrees. Amazon has gotten a couple of hits under its belt in the last 6 months. But yeah, it's certainly not a simple proposition. Yeah, I think the way that Garena did it is interesting. They started with, they started in gaming, and that is their thing, and they expanded elsewhere. I wonder if that's more viable as a strategy.
Epic.
Maybe I'm being a little bit proud as a game developer, but I think game development is insanely complex, as an intersection of entertainment, art, technology, and business. It's like, and software development, it's like just ridiculously intricate, the number of moving parts there. I don't really know whether it's more complex than other industries, but I like to think that it is.
Yeah. So the game's first element is important there. You can see it with other companies like Epic that, started making games and then created this whole other enormous like tech ecosystem out of it. It's hard. I mean, these are the exceptions. These are like the very rare companies that are able to pull something like that off. But when you find them, you normally have something pretty special.
And we don't have the time to go as in depth as the deconstruction. However, Thomas, if there was something about the monetization of the game, did anything take you by surprise, or you yourself as a consultant in this area, you thought, oh, this is really smart and I can see this being applied to other games?
Yeah. There are a number of things that Free Fire does monetization-wise that are quite unconventional. Probably the most noteworthy, I would say, is selling both cosmetics and power. Most battle royale or competitive online shooters tend to not do this. Kind of part of the deal, I think, or the kind of contract that players opt into when they start playing an online competitive game typically is that that it's going to be kind of level playing field, and in battle royale, you drop into the map and everyone has the same chances. Skill and luck notwithstanding, everyone starts from the same kind of initial kind of stakes or starting position. Whereas Free Fire, there are a bunch of ways that you can with spend afford yourself an advantage. But the really smart thing about it is that they have, I would say, kind of landed the game, pardon the pun, in like the Goldilocks zone of selling power, where it's just influential enough that I think players are willing to invest and see the value, but not so influential that it feels fundamentally corrupt or unfair. And that's a function of a number of different things. It's got to do with the fact that, like, just because you've got a powerful gun variant doesn't mean that you'll find it when you're wandering through randomized, loot locations. It's got to do with like the fairly hectic and randomized nature of encounters in Battle Royale, where like you don't know when you're going to find someone or who they're going to be or how many they're going to be, or is it going to be you versus a squad or several squads converging, blah, blah, blah. So there's all these randomized elements that kind of like dilute the power that you purchase. So that's one really interesting thing. And then the other thing that really struck me about its monetization model is that a lot of the cosmetics and power are temporary, which
Right.
some other games do this. Temporary cosmetics have been popularized in Korean games for quite some time, but temporary power is quite unusual to my knowledge. So yeah, not only are they managing to sell stuff that other people typically wouldn't, but they're also selling it and reselling it. So yeah, I think that's how you're seeing the LTV that you are. So they've got this really healthy, ridiculously high production values, hyperactive cosmetics and battle pass and heavily themed seasons thing going on, supported by insanely well produced, animations and in some cases live action promotional material. And then you've got the power, and then a lot of it is temporary. So yeah, they are doing a lot of things that are unusual and very effective. And further to that, and this is perhaps to their detriment in terms of being able to expand into other like tier 1 countries where other battle royales are more established. Yeah, I don't know how excited your average PUBG player would be about the prospect of facing off against people who have weapons that are better than theirs, or how excited they would be about spending and getting something temporary. So yeah, it kind of works really well for them because they launched this way and they have captured an audience, and that is the precedent that has been set for that audience, primarily in tier 2 and 3 regions. But I don't know how well it would translate, although we are seeing, very healthy revenue in the US. So maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, that does sound very interesting. Sounds like the game, if another type of game would do that, they would also have to find a way to balance it with that randomness that you were describing. It's not a lesson that games can plug and play with a bit less complexity, and being able to fit with different core loops like the battle pass. That's something that is fairly simple. It's still complex, but fairly simple to adapt to different genres and different core loops.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
By the way, what is the Goldilocks zone? I've never heard that expression.
Oh, sorry. Just like not too powerful, but just powerful enough, like just right.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. I think maybe I made it up. I'm pretty sure I did.
No, sounds cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I was wondering how much of the acceptance of the potential buying power and power creep is about the audience. If some other game if Battle Royale tried to do that with a tier 1 audience, if they would be accepting of it. So you said that the game is having great success in the United States. Why do you think that is?
I think it's really taking off on Android in the US. You can see the numbers of Battle Royale uptake in the US. I think is for PUBG. is really dominated by iOS from memory, whereas Free Fire seems to have really kind of landed like very nicely on lower and mid tier devices on Android in the American market. Aaron, this is perhaps more your area of specialty.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just that, it's doing well on the lower end Android devices because that's what has been underserved. And so, they were just able to tap into a niche that probably not many people thought really existed. And, in terms of the like percentage of downloads, like it's very low in the US compared to the total of the world, but the percentage of revenue is really high because even though these are low end devices, it's still a wealthier, spendier country than other places. Whereas India, for example, it was getting like a pretty enormous percentage of downloads, but it still only represented like 2% of the game's total revenue. And so it really was just the complete opposite of that in the US. But, interestingly now, like the company, it finds itself, especially after losing a region like India, that like one of the countries that it wasn't really meaning to target, that it was trying to, serve more of these like other underserved, like major regions. But this other region is now, which represents a tiny minority of players, is now like a really important revenue driver. And so, as they've seen some of these other regions fall off, it's actually like really important that they don't screw up the US, even though it never really was their intention, which is just like an interesting, side effect of what's going on.
So when you mentioned India, it's because it was banned, Free Fire.
Yeah. So there were like a ton of bans that happened. I forget the dates. Like let's call it like last year sometime. That banned just a ton of like Chinese affiliated companies, and so this is when like PUBG Mobile, for example, was originally banned, and that's when Free Fire swooped in and became like the dominant battle royale game in the region. But now it got banned, or at least its base game got banned. There's Free Fire, the base game, and then Free Fire Max, which is it's more, I guess it's targeting more premium devices. But so strangely, that tier of the game isn't banned, and none of us have any idea why. It doesn't make sense why you would only ban the base game but not the Max version. But yeah, either way, I think it got banned because of its relationship with like Tencent, and probably, it's all like a very like politicized, occasion when these things happen. And so it really is more politically driven than probably anything like really substance driven on Free Fire's part, which, this is a Singapore based company. They just happen to work with Tencent. And so, yeah, they probably share like user data and things like that, which is actually like going to be like pretty normal to share like game data with big partners that, are the backbone of, a lot of your platforms and stuff. So I think it probably was blown a little out of proportion, but, India was still able to kind of use it to, push some of these games aside, which also probably helps their own like domestic market too, of developers help them gain more market share themselves. But yeah, very interesting.
So based on that, Aaron, is revenue and DAU for Garena Free Fire on a growth path?
Not anymore. So it had like a pretty explosive, I don't know, call it like 3 years, where not only did it do well, but it was like really a phenomenon in a bunch of these regions. Kind of similar to maybe how a game like Fortnite was around us, where like it was just like a thing that this particular summer, like that kids are going to be like spending like every day in Fortnite with their friends, and it was just like the cool thing to do, and everyone was rallying behind it. Free Fire definitely had that moment in these regions, and those moments are just impossible to sustain because people just naturally move on from whatever's at like peak hype to new things. So, like a bit of that has been playing out with Free Fire, but like probably paired with, just like post-COVID tailwinds and people just are spending less time into playing these games among other trends that are probably more region specific. But yeah, more recently, the number of downloads, the revenue in these key regions has been trailing off. And so, we were kind of digging into, to what degree it has been trailing off. Obviously, India getting banned, that takes it about down to zero in that region for, new downloads and stuff. But yeah, it's not the same juggernaut in terms of growth that it once was.
Yeah, now I understand why you're saying is hopefully they can protect their market in the United States where they're getting so much of their revenue. So Thomas, I know we have Apex Legends, the mobile version, on its way. We know that Free Fire is doing this huge collaboration with BTS where the band members are even creating their own character costumes, something like that. And they're doing a music video in the game. But now we've also been discussing about the ban in India and the metrics that are on a downward path. What do you think we'll see next from Free Fire?
Well, I mean, if I were them, I would, my first step, it's kind of a boring one, but it would be to really slow down and kind of address tech debts, because potentially part of the reason for that decline that Aaron was just talking about is that the game is so perpetually reinventing itself in all these deep and amazingly like fancy ways that it seems like it's actually harming the technical stability and performance of the game, which is kind of an ironic problem for Free Fire to have, because it rose to prominence on the basis of being technically accessible, and now it's kind of buckling, kind of flying too close to the sun. So yeah, that's what I would do if I were them. But like in more exciting possible news, so one thing that we haven't talked about is Free Fire Max, which is this kind of funky sister app that is basically just Free Fire, but with HD assets and a couple new features. It has completely shared economy, shared accounts, shared progression, shared live ops. Like, it is Free Fire. It just looks better, and it has a map editor. So that's really interesting. And one of the reasons they might have done that, other than kind of a marketing play, is maybe it's a step in the direction of going cross-platform. Because in September, I don't know, sometime in 2020, they acquired the studio that does Dauntless, which is a console and PC cross-platform free-to-play game. And it's not like an obvious acquisition, so maybe there is subtle strategic value to that. Maybe they are, maybe that acquisition plus the HD release of Free Fire with Max is a step towards a cross-platform HD version, which would be really interesting, and kind of see them, in a sense, stepping into the shoes that Fortnite vacated when it started its fight with Google and Apple. So that's one possibility. And yeah, maybe they go transmedia, like League of Legends, Riot has done. Maybe they turn it into a TV show. They already have a lot of very slick promotional material. So maybe they can spin it out into its own kind of pop culture universe and make the game much bigger than the game and become like a cultural phenomenon on that scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also hope that
Creating an IP.
they can really improve their UGC element, Craftland. which would be just like a really unique differentiator for a battle royale game, especially like a mobile based one. We haven't talked about it too much, but part of like what also made Free Fire so successful is like their skill in like region based live ops, where they have like tons of events around like Maria, you mentioned BTS. And that's like a really cool collab, but it's not the first of that kind by far. They've done a ton of collabs with other artists and athletes and other organizations, and like when movies come out, kind of like Fortnite, how like Fortnite has like collaborated with anyone and everyone. Free Fire has kind of done its own edition of that, but targeting its own specific regions, and along the way like building its own like mini games like in the app and all sorts of crazy things, which I think I agree with Thomas that they probably need to slow down a little bit on some of that and just reassess what really is going to move the needle and not create even more tech debt. But the Craftland part, the UGC element, is really interesting, and I'm pretty bullish on the idea that of just like when you have these enormous player bases, if you can enable them to create on their own, that is a source of building like a really interesting competitive advantage, especially if the others that you compete with aren't doing that. Like a PUBG Mobile, I don't think is doing anything like that, or Call of Duty Mobile isn't. So that would be really interesting. Craftland isn't perfect. I think, Thomas, you might want to correct me on this, but I think you can make your like experiences, but then in order to like spin it into its own server that then you can like share with people, you have to like pay in order to share your experience, which completely like breaks the logic of what would make UGC go viral. So I think they would have to kind of fundamentally look at their business model there, maybe give up some revenue in terms of the like creator sharing what it has created. But ideally, like if you've set your system up the right way, you're going to create a lot more revenue by enabling so much more creation and so much more engagement. And plus too, if they do go cross-platform, that could even work really well on console PC too. So yeah, I'm really, really curious to see what they do with Craftland. It's there for a reason, but I think has been under invested in and under thought through. But if they can get it right, could have pretty unique upside.
Yeah, within UGC, within a free-to-play game, I'm interested to see how that will play out. Maybe like you were saying, because it has such a high DAU, it's successful. But I've had a recent exploration within UGC and free-to-play, and if it doesn't provide good rewards to players, they might not want to spend time playing the UGC. But yeah, because they won't get rewarded for it, and they're doing it for community fun, but they're not actually progressing their game. So maybe that's a topic for another time, but I am curious to see whether how it'll perform within Free Fire. And when you mentioned Dauntless, I just realized I might be wrong here. I was trying to find that information. I think Dauntless was a bit of a poster child during the development of Epic Online Services, that they were using them. I might be wrong. I just have this recollection about Dauntless development because they're integrated now with the account system of Epic, I believe. So that could be extra interesting of bringing that relationship with a publishing platform that has all of these services, account linking that has been proven, and with Dauntless, and maybe they had a way to help shape what the services are now with EOS, and then that integration with Free Fire and those connections. Cool. Well, I have to confirm this. Okay. So I'm going to have to, we won't be able to talk about Bloodborne Kart. I really want to ask this question. So I think we're going to have to create a topic backlog. I was thinking, is Garena Free Fire for Battle Royale genre what Royal Match was to Match 3, where you have all of these really big names within the genre that people are already accustomed to. And then there's this company that shows you, actually, you can still penetrate and be very successful in a market that can be considered a red ocean, because you find that tiny bit of the market that's not addressed yet, and you can find huge opportunity.
Yeah, I would kind of more equate it. It's an interesting analogy. I think there's some truth to it. I would more equate it to Supercell and Clash Royale, kind of taking the MOBA experience and distilling it into something that's more mobile friendly as a format. Obviously, they haven't gone as far. Like that, it's the same perspective. That there are many more similarities between Free Fire and other battle royales than there are between Clash Royale and, I don't know, League of Legends. But nonetheless, I feel like they brought that mobile first maximum accessibility mentality to an established genre, and kind of proven that when you make a game accessible to, an even broader audience, you can find new success. Whereas my understanding of Royal Match's story is like they took everything that everyone else had done before and just did it that much better, that they could scale super hard.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very interesting deconstruction. I have read it. It's very intricate, super deep, and I recommend going into the details. We've only brushed the tip of the iceberg, really. So if you want to read the full deconstruction, check out Naavik, get in touch about signing up to their Naavik Pro service. Yeah, thanks Thomas, for sharing all of your knowledge. You did a big chunk of that consultation. All right. In less great news, the mobile game earnings were down 7% during Q1 this year. So this was a report by Sensor Tower. The Google Play market revenue for this period declined 13.8%, and the Apple App Store dropped by 2.3%. Aaron, I'm scared. What does this mean?
Oh no. Well.
Oh no.
I mean, I think it's important to put it in perspective. It's not really that surprising. So in Q1 of 2021, so last year, the number was a 25% increase in mobile gaming sales, and that was unsustainable. So that was, getting the benefit of still a lot of people in lockdown. That was pre-IDFA deprecation. And so, you look at today's 7% decline, a lot of that is the COVID, post-COVID headwinds now. Companies are now, facing the IDFA deprecation, which, a large percentage of mobile studios are facing some kind of revenue loss from, and trying to redeploy ad spending and try to, find higher ROI elsewhere. And yeah, I mean, the truth of the matter is that the market should not be growing as fast as it was last year. And so this is just like a natural reset. And if you look at a 2-year trajectory, it's still the trend line is still about even, I think. And so I would expect this is one of those things you can't really overthink. It's just more of a sign of the times of where we are in the cycle, and it'll return back to growth. It might not return back to growth in the next quarter or two. There'll still be some more of that cycle to work through. But at the end of the day, this is still a fundamentally a growing market, I think. There will, in the same way that IDFA changes kind of rock the industry, I think there could be more things like that happen in both good and bad ways. That could, change those growth rates, in the next year or two. But that's just sort of how I think about the kind of that current 7% decline.
Okay. I think I'm going back to when, at the New Year's, there's usually a lot of blog posts and content being created about predictions for the future. And one of the predictions I saw going around was that the mobile game market is going to start going on a decreasing trajectory. And then I saw this, and I was thinking, no, this can't be true. Okay, but it doesn't sound so doom and gloom. It's just part of the cycle, like you're saying.
Yeah, it's just a reset, I think.
Okay. And something that was
Yeah,
curious.
I mean, you can't spike 25% year on year and then not expect a correction of some sort a year later. It's like the hidden sting in the tail. The numbers look bad, but they're probably not.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, something that I've been very curious about is what makes the difference between Apple App Store and Google Play audiences, because we also saw this difference in the numbers within Garena Free Fire, and we saw the decline was larger in Google Play than the App Store. Is it just purely based on the number of users of those platforms, and so you see more of a decrease on Google Play?
I'm honestly not 100% positive.
So
go ahead, Thomas.
I am also like 1.25% positive, but like I have a random like pop psych or pop sociology theory, which is that unfortunately the people who happen to own Android devices also happen to be the people who are more less able to do their jobs as a result of COVID lockdowns, because they tend to be people who need to physically go somewhere to do the thing that earns them the money. So if they're locked inside with lots of spare time, not working, then perhaps they're online socializing, spending, and therefore the spike, and this isn't backed by numbers or anything, in fact. But maybe the spike a year ago was higher on Google Play for those reasons, and therefore the drop is higher. The drop is high, comparatively now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's an interesting hypothesis. Okay. And I was looking at the highest grossing games on the App Store, and they were Honor of Kings, which is from Tencent, PUBG Mobile, also from Tencent, and Genshin Impact, Hoyoverse. Are you surprised by these top 3 highest grossing?
No, I mean, I'm pretty sure these have like been the highest grossing for a little while. So it's been maintaining the status quo for a little bit, I think.
Yeah, it feels such powerhouses. I'm very interested to see what does a company have to do to compete with them. How can you get your foot into the door?
To make a top 3 gaming, like a mobile game by revenue?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's easy. Once you figure it out, let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah, Thomas will figure it out.
Yeah, sure. No problem. Well, I mean, I think it helps, that those games are huge in China, and China has a very, it's the most populous nation in the world. So that probably helps. Their middle class, is continuing to emerge. Yeah, I mean, smartphone adoption continues to grow. So, yeah, and actually, I read recently that Apple device adoption is growing, like quite notably, in China as well. So, yeah, the fact that they were topping the App Store is, yeah. I mean, yeah. One does not simply dethrone games like these. Something has to be very disruptive to knock the hit off its perch. So
yeah, I'm just waiting to see that day. I don't know, it just feels like such an exciting landmark. When it happens, I think the industry will be different as a whole. It'll be massive.
Yeah, well, it has happened. Like Genshin Impact, for example, is probably the most recent one there, and that definitely was a breakthrough game of its type. Before that, like a PUBG Mobile, that was also like a pretty incredible breakthrough of its type. And I don't remember when Honor of Kings started, but the last two, those are PUBG Mobile was made probably like 4 years ago. And yeah, the Genshin. Yeah, Genshin. Thank you for the word. It's only, I mean, that one's only like less than 2 years old. So, I mean, it would not be surprising at all, within the next year or two to see some other like newer games compete for the throne.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really encouraged by the fact that they're in genres. You got a MOBA, a battle royale, and
action
world RPG,
action
sort
RPG,
of. Action RPG. So yeah, I think just like from a gamer perspective, I think that's really healthy.
Yeah, I think from a game dev perspective, it scares me a little bit entering into the Chinese market. How do you do that? There's so many regulations, and then I think they have these rules where your game can only allow a certain amount of hours for people under a certain age and verification of ID. It just seems that there's such a huge wall to climb in order to get your game circulating in the country, that unless you're a big company or associated to a big company like, I don't know, Tencent, for example, it's just so difficult to do that. I don't know how many consultants there are out there that do help companies just take that step and help them enter the market.
Yeah. Well, we do have one on staff at Naavik, actually, coincidentally. I mean, I've been part of teams that were trying to get a game into China. And yeah, it wasn't easy. In fact, it was impossible. It didn't happen.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's even harder now. Like, I'm pretty sure approvals of mobile games have ground to a halt. Like,
right.
It's effectively not an option, as far as I know. So.
Okay, well, I'll just manage my expectations. The game I work on won't top the grossing chart of the App Store. I can live with that.
Settle for number 4.
Reach for the sky.
And I know we only have 4 minutes left, but I really want to talk about Bloodborne Kart.
Let's do it.
Can I?
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. I'll try to do a really quick intro and try to explain what it is. So Bloodborne is now on its 7th anniversary, I believe. And there's a creator called Lilith Walther who created a Bloodborne PSX demake. I didn't even know this was a thing, but it's when you take a game, maybe like a modern game, and then you demake it into an older console generation. So the creator, if you play the demake, it's like you're playing the initial part of Bloodborne, just copy by copy. Even the intro is the same, but on a PlayStation 1. It's a perfect render of it. And now the creator is doing a kart version where I think you can race, and you can race against other characters from Bloodborne, like Father Gascoigne, and have these, I don't know, fun kart races in also a PlayStation 1 type setting. And it goes down into the detail where you can intentionally slow down the game's frame rate so that you can have those moments during the boss fights where you're just trying to fight them, but the frame rate is down, so it's a lot harder. They also increased the loading times so that you had that really painful slow chug that you used to have in PlayStation 1. It's just, I didn't know this existed. And I'm also surprised that From Software allowed Lilith to do these fan projects, considering how it's a like-for-like usage of the IP, and the first demake, it's essentially a copy from the beginning of the game, I believe. So, yeah, I don't know. Thomas, what do you think? Are you as excited as I am about this?
I don't know. You seem extremely excited. I'm quite excited. I think it's amazing that it exists. It's the most hilarious, incongruous, like, genre IP mishmash. I don't know. It's kind of like a positive version of when EA resurrected Syndicate as a third-person shooter with the Skrillex soundtrack like 10 years ago. But this is like something everyone wants, even though it doesn't make any sense. Whereas that was something no one wanted. But yeah, I guess it's really uncommon for developers and publishers to be this kind of permissive. You see so many takedown requests from like Rockstar or Nintendo. So it is very odd. It like I read an interview with the guy who directed Elden Ring recently, which is from Software Game, obviously, and he talked about how everything in the game needs to have a certain kind of poise and finesse and grace to it, and how that's kind of present throughout the entire game, and you can really feel that. But anyway, my point being, maybe someone very influential who has a very artistic mentality near the top of, From Software, which is, like, which published Bloodborne, and maybe someone is looking at these creations and going, no, this is treating the source material with the respect that it deserves. I don't know that I would look at it and be like, yeah, a karting karting game featuring the Bloodborne player character is necessarily graceful or full of finesse, but it exists, so that's pretty glorious.
You have to watch the trailer because it has this sort of bit retro wave entrance song, and you see the main character outfit just walking towards the motorcycle in a really cool, powerful way. I know it seems fun.
Bloodborne Kart!
It seems a fun application of the IP, and I know there's a lot of players out there that Bloodborne is not on PC, so I think it's also a little way to keep players who can't play the game because they don't have a PlayStation experiencing it. I hope we see more of this. It's so awesome when we see creative people spending their free time making these fan projects that the quality is so high. It just impresses me that there are such people out there in this world, and it makes me happy.
Yeah, and I don't think this person is making any money on it either. So yeah, it's purely just like a passion-driven project, and also probably part of why From Software is okay with this being out there, or probably just a piece of why. But yeah, I mean, it makes me happy. I don't think I'm as excited as you, Maria, but it still makes me happy. I guess like the kind of the spin that I would put on this is like it's sort of like it just brings kind of like the concept of modding up. Like, there was like an era, and it still is true, where like modding on games, just building crazy stuff based on the IP material in the game. That was like a thing, and then it kind of shifted. The market has shifted more towards like indie developers, just kind of like building things separately, inspired by stuff, etc. But I really think there still is an opportunity for modding to make like a comeback, but in like a better way than in the past. And so I was just thinking back to a conversation I had last year with Scott Rice-Manis, who's the founder and CEO of Mod.io. We have an interview of that conversation with him on our website. But anyways, he made some like really interesting comments. But I guess in short, like Mod.io, like for example, they're basically building a platform that makes it easier for all of these different games to like enable modding on their platform, or just based on their game, and then like integrate it much more into the gaming experience where people can just build more crazy things. And to me, like, it just feels like a lost opportunity. Like, I know Bloodborne is its own very like specific experience, and like a ton of games are like that too. But even just like having the capability for these things to be made that are connected to your core game experience, that I'm super bullish on that idea. And especially like if things can just be integrated really well, where you can, just download something that looks interesting, even though it has nothing to do with the core Bloodborne experience, versus it having to be made 100% separate by fans, that sits 100% separate from the game itself. It would just like, this is cool, but I think it would be really awesome if the ecosystem could evolve to support more of these kinds of people, much more connected to the games themselves. It might be an uphill battle to convince a From Software to enable that kind of capability in its games, but I don't know. Projects like this, to me, just like prove that it's so worth it to enable that kind of thing.
Yeah, I actually don't own a PC to game. I just game on my mobile phone or my console. And I feel like I totally miss out because I see these videos of people doing just weird stuff in games. And you could totally get me playing more hours in your ecosystem and in your game if you allowed me to just do, I don't know, strange things within it. I saw this video of a player playing, I think it was Elden Ring with Homer Simpson as the character. It looked absolutely hilarious.
I love that.
Sorry, Thomas. Yeah.
I was just going to say bizarre. And I mean, the thing about modding is people are going to do it, whether you auspice it and monetize it and bring it into your ecosystem or not. There's all sorts of mods for Elden Ring, like, the Homer Simpson one, and an Elden Ring mod for Tekken 7 as well, which, the director of that game spooked on Twitter and was like, this is amazing, but please stop. But anyway, that's another kind of related story. But like, people are going to pour their love and creative energy into these bizarre kind of spin-off experiences. So like Aaron said, if you can harness that and bring it in-house and smooth the passage, then it does seem like a really healthy opportunity for everyone involved.
We are a little bit over the hour, so we have to wrap up this episode, unfortunately. I could keep going about this subject. Maybe in the future we can talk about it for a bit longer. So Lilith Walther, keep rocking, keep doing this. Thank you for spending your time doing this remake. Well, not remake, but fan project for Bloodborne. It's really appreciated. And thanks, Thomas, for joining for the first time.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hopefully it was good. You'll come back one day.
Gladly, if you'll have me.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Good. And thanks, Aaron, as well for joining.
Always fun.
Even though it's 7 a.m.
Yeah, maybe not 7
Very
a.m. next
impressive.
time, but it was fun. Always happy to chat all these things with you, Maria.
Oh, all right. Well, I hope you have a good day and join us for the next episode next week. Bye, everyone. See you.